I am live. I am reading Reshad Feilds' book, The Last Barrier, A Sufi Journey, it says here. It was published in 1976, and Reshad is in Turkey. His teacher is called Hamid, and we are now in chapter 7. What you are looking for is what is looking. St. Francis of Assisi. There's another proverb here from Rumi. I said, thou art harsh, like such a one. No, he replied, that I am harsh for good, not from rancour and spite. Whoever enters saying, 'tis I smile on the brow, for this is the shine of Lord, O fool, it is not a sheep coat. Rub thine eyes and behold the image of the heart. But Hamid, I had to go back. Sometimes these things happen, and plans have to change. It's all fixed now, though there isn't anything else to interfere with my commitment here. I've put everything in the hands of an attorney and told him that I will be out of England for an indefinite period, and he has complete authority to sign papers for me, and all that sort of thing. Since I had returned to Side, Hamid had hardly spoken. I had been away for just under a week, and had returned as quickly as I could, having sent a telegram from London to announce that the business problems had been settled, and that I would soon be back with him. Then, after 3 days of silence, he responded to my pleading and explanations. You swore that you had left nothing behind. I told you that it was not possible for us to go on this journey together unless you came with both hands. It seems that the time is not right, and it's better for you to go back to England, get a normal job, and then ask me again in another year when you are more prepared. Please, Hamid, I begged, really, it's all right now, and there's nothing to take me away again. There's nothing more important than this time, I know that. Now, you listen to me carefully. Hamid sat up in his chair, slamming his fist on the table. You are the most stubborn and obstinate person I have ever met. You simply do not listen to what you are being told. You don't seem to care, even after all your so-called searching about the importance of true work on yourself. You think you have a right to an opinion. You have no right even to think that you know. If you want to understand the way, then you have to make sacrifices. But do you? Do you really make any sacrifices? Perhaps you've given up a little of your comfort and some of your British conditioning. But to truly come to understand, you have to sacrifice everything. If you had really done this, you would not have been called back to London for a ridiculous business talk, which was quite unnecessary. You cannot serve God and Mammon. Isn't that what you say? Why are you so angry, Hamid? I asked him. Why is 1 week so important? It is not as though I hadn't come right back. And if I hadn't gone to London, then most likely I would have been called back for a much longer period later on. How do you know? He shouted at me. What do you know about that? You still won't hear what I'm telling you. Trust, trust, trust. If you had come with both hands and trusted in God, then do you really think this could have happened? You know that there is no such thing as chance. So listen to me, and I'll tell you the real reason you were called back to England. The moment you set foot on this path, there is no turning back, but you became complacent after you arrived here. I have watched you. In your pride and arrogance, you thought you were achieving something. There is nothing to achieve. There is only surrender to a life of service. But you have gone on spiritualizing your ego, always tied up in your opinions and your concepts. The goal of this journey is far beyond anything you can conceive of. You thought it was mere coincidence, or perhaps even because of stupidity on the part of your business partner, that you were called back to London. But that is not so. Instead of giving up totally and trusting in God, you kept Just a little of what you thought would buy you comfort back in London. Is that not so? At that moment, I wanted more than anything else never to have begun this journey. I felt ashamed. I knew that what he was saying was true. I had left things in a way that allowed me a sort of insurance policy, so that I could return to the old life as though nothing had happened. After I had made these arrangements, I had put them completely out of my mind. But it was clear that when my partner had summoned me back to help him deal with the problems involved in selling our antique business, he had simply played a part in exposing my own lack of faith. Now listen to me. I'm not interested in your self-pity, and what's more, I'm not through with you yet. There is another reason why I was so upset when you went back to England. It was a very important sequence of events that led us both to Mary at Ephesus. It was then you were initiated into the beginning of the inner path that is the foundation of what I have been trying to convey to you. Once you have been introduced into that path, it is necessary that you work twice as hard on yourself so that you can be taken on to the next stage of the unfoldment of the mystery. Just when that unfoldment was beginning for you, you went running off to England, completely breaking the continuity of our work together. It was only because of your unwillingness to sacrifice your security that you had to go back at all. That is why you must not leave anything behind, for it is certain that any unfinished business will prevent you from taking the next step forward to a full commitment. Now that you have come back, you must reaffirm your commitment if we are to continue together. He was silent, as though considering how to proceed. If you really say I will in consciousness to the will of God, then I pity you, for I know of the sacrifices that you will have to make before you may be granted the knowledge of our essential unity with God. If you want to come upon that truth, you must learn to rededicate yourself with every breath you draw. Turn to God with every step. Each morning as you wake, you should pray that you will be allowed to be of service, asking nothing for yourself in return. Now you must decide if you are really ready to go on, to dedicate yourself unconditionally to the work of God on earth. I felt closer to Hamid than ever before, and more able to trust. Yes, I said, I will. Hamid stood up and embraced me as though I were his son. I'm glad you have come back, he said. I have missed you very much. We were both crying now, and the flow of love between us washed away what was past. Thank you, I said. Thank you for taking me back and being patient with me. When you know, he said, smiling, you will say, thank you, each moment, for each moment is in essence perfect. Indeed, his ways are beautiful. I'm so sorry to be so hard on you sometimes, but I'm afraid some people have to learn the hard way. Now you will rest, and tomorrow morning you will come to me as usual, and we will see what is to be done next. Also, you should know that the girl disappeared the day you left for England. I didn't tell you sooner, because until I decided to accept you again, it was none of your business. I heard that she got a ride to Antalya, but no one seems to have seen her. I have checked all the hotels and asked all the travel agents, but so far there's no sign of her. She has done that before, but you should remember her in your prayers. She wants so much to be helped. We went for a walk along the beach the next morning instead of having the usual session in his room. We walked in silence towards the amphitheatre. In the last day, I had been brought close to what Hamid called the state of perplexity, the point at which we finally turn to God and discover that all our self-importance is illusion. Despair had come when I realized that I knew nothing at all, that I was incapable of acting even to help bring about the changes that was necessary in myself. Yet Hamid had also told me that it is at the very moment we realize our importance that we draw near the beginning of the path of knowledge. We sat down by the rocks facing the ocean. Hamid was still silent, but as so often his silence carried more intensity than his words. It seemed that every moment was precious to him, and the depth of his feelings gave an added dimension to every action and experience that we shared. The more we were together, the less time made any sense to me, and space had been swallowed up in the travelling to and from London and Istanbul. The invisible structure of time that allows us to experience distance was dissolving, and there were moments when I felt great fear as I had realized there was less and less to hang on to, fewer and fewer props to keep alive the illusion that I had treasured. Hamid stood up on the rock where we were sitting, raising his arm to point out the great curve of the bay. It was a perfect morning. The cold wind had died down, and the sun was bright and clear, making the sea shine and sparkle. It was very quiet. I could just hear the creaking of the oars of a fishing boat by the rocks of the point. "Is it not beautiful?" he asked me. "The sole purpose of love is beauty. Living should be an act of love. Fill everyone around you with the freedom of that spirit. Never be controlled by your passions, but dare to live passionately. For until you come to love completely, you will never come to know God. But now tell me, what have you really understood so far since you and I have been together? Not with a mind, but with a heart." I dreaded these questions. It was hard enough letting go of my old concept, but it was harder still to put into words those small realizations that I could truthfully say I understood. "I think the most important thing," I began, "is that what I had thought I had understood from previous teachings was not real. There were moments, flashes of inspiration, but most of the time I was just gathering together masses of information, which now seems to be useless." Hamid smiled. "It's not that bad, is it?" he asked. "I don't know. Last night I was nearly in despair, but when you said that really there was nothing to achieve, all my past life seemed pointless. Just a great waste of time. I don't feel happy anymore. I don't know what I feel." "The reason for that," he replied, "is simple. As your conditioning goes, so do your habit patterns. And then comes a period when everything can seem very negative. Don't worry about it. If you did not experience such things, I would know that you were refusing to give up some of the most treasured possessions of your mind. Always there is a sense of loss as the illusions go. But it is a temporary state, and it will pass. Go on, what else can you tell me?" "Well, when I was in London, I found that I could hardly speak with anyone, even my oldest friends. They seemed very suspicious, and the more I tried to tell them what had been going on, the worse it became. I found that I simply could not communicate the things we've been doing here. It was a great shock, and I felt that I had failed them in some way, because they have always wanted the same things that I did." "Ah," said Hamid, "but I tell you, your job is to create a new language. You do not understand this yet. When your heart finally opens, you will be able to speak from the heart, and they will understand what you're saying. Remember, however, that we each understand in our individual ways, not necessarily in the form that you're trying to communicate." And I make here a break. Today is Saturday, the 28th of June. I continue the 7th chapter soon.